Hello, hello, it's a new day. There's a bunch of new Path of Exile 2 news on the subreddit, plus some questions that people had that GGG has already answered that I thought I could highlight today. Without further ado, let's delve right in. The very first bit of news here we have comes from Burden555. They ask, revive down party members in PoE 2. Not sure if this was mentioned before, but will we be able to revive party members? Playing with a bunch of my noob friends at start might require a lot of waiting for them to do the walk of shame. Also, it's something a bunch of them asked how to do instinctively when I tried to get them into PoE 1, and they inevitably died during the campaign. Now, Jonathan actually answers this question and says, you can, yes. It takes some time, and you will be interrupted if hit. The intention is that you revive your party member after the boss fight is done. You might be able to get away with doing it also if you heavy stun the boss and are fast and careful. The person responds and says, that's good to hear. How would this work in maps? Would it cost a portal to revive? Jonathan says, yes. Now, this is my opinion, everybody swapping over from Jonathan to me. This is interesting. I think there's no harm in really adding this, especially if it takes away a portal in maps. This is just great for new players and people who might want to have that co-op experience with someone who's never played and feels bad when they die, especially if these boss fights are prolonged and difficult, which they probably will be, especially the act bosses and the new endgame bosses. Man, I am excited to see those in action. So this is just a pure win from GGG. Now I'm wondering if there will be mechanics that interact with revives, speeding up revives, slowing down revives in exchange for some power. We'll have to see though. I'm guessing it's just going to be a base revive mechanic. Now, somebody else did ask, and their name is Yuruno Kage, how does that work for hardcore? Jonathan simply says, obviously you can't revive someone in hardcore. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now here's something that GGG didn't answer, but I thought that I would touch on. It's an interesting question, and I have a viewpoint on it that I think a lot of people might disagree with. Hopefully they agree with me though, we'll have to see. It's My Miller Time asks, XP penalty on death in PoE 2. Has anyone seen any confirmation on if XP loss on death will be in PoE 2? I am fairly new to the game and read that Chris Wilson wanted it this way to make people feel accomplished, but I do not think people would mind if others could get to 100. It's just a goal line that many people do not cross, and build makers could include 100 points in their builds instead of coming to an arbitrary stopping point. All right, it's My Miller Time. I know you're a new player, but 100 points from 100 levels is not how it works in PoE 2. You actually get a lot of points from passive skills as well. The total, I think, is actually 123. Anyways, I do not agree with this. I love XP penalties in PoE, and this is someone who has died multiple times on the journey from 99 to 100. It's infuriating, but it really does lend to the fact of progression. It does ensure that you feel accomplished when you actually get there, and I enjoy having there be some punishment when you die besides losing a portal. It needs to be a decision whether or not you're going to attempt this challenging map, take on this boss that you know could kill you when you're progressing from one level to the next. It's interesting. It provides some intensity in the game as well, especially if you're not on hardcore, and I think that it should remain a core part of the PoE 2 and PoE 1 experience. Here is another absolute bomb from Jonathan. Rax12 asks, pre-planned passive point allocation in the passive tree. Will there be a feature like this in PoE 2? Every time I play and plan a build, I find myself glancing over at POB on my other monitor to make sure I'm allocating the correct points in the order that I have planned. Having this feature baked into the tree in-game would be a huge quality of life. Now, Strill responds and says, it's implemented in the Chinese version. No idea why we don't have it already. My Cat Reigns the Flat says, I remember it being in the main game for very short, or maybe not at all and only previewed. Anyway, seems like 6 years isn't soon enough. Jonathan actually pipes in and says, we implemented it. The UX of it was a bit lame. At some point we will make it better and have it in the game. Phenomenal. Now, this almost sounds like it will also be in Path of Exile 1, but it definitely will be in Path of Exile 2. The fact that GGG is actually addressing it means that this planner will actually make it in game, and that will be absolutely huge. I finally bit the bullet and used POB for this league because I was really making my own build, and it was pretty nice being able to plot out exactly where I was going to go before I went in game and was making decisions on the tree in real time. Having something like this in game is phenomenal. You don't want people to have to close out of your game constantly to truly enjoy it to its maximum. Having this in game is just a win on GGG's part. Now here's another question from somebody that wasn't answered by GGG, but I think I do know the answer. Grouchy Loss 2732 asks, are you going to remaster PoE 1 entirely with new PoE 2 graphic assets? Back in the days where you were showing the plan for 4.0, there was a discussion about upgrading PoE 1 to the new age. Is it still going to happen so in the future we will receive 2 games with similar graphic levels and a fresh look but different playstyle and story? Thanks for your ongoing development. My friend, I do not believe that they're going to go back and remaster all of PoE 1 until they are fully done with PoE 2, and even then, I think it's a very low chance. You know, they were asked at ExileCon about updating the animations in PoE 1 and said that it would just be far too much work to go back and re-rig absolutely everything. I think they're going to be putting all of their effort into new content into PoE 1 and just making PoE 2 the best it can be. So actually updating the graphics, the animations, the sounds, all that stuff in PoE 1 is probably going to be on the back burner. And, you know, while that is unfortunate, and that is one of the big pitfalls of splitting out PoE 2 into its own game, PoE 1 already stands on its own without having incredible graphics. We have another question here that I know that I can answer from Finnick. They ask, PoE 1 and PoE 2 shared endgame? I'm not sure that this is still the plan, but at initial announcement, it was told that both games will have a shared endgame. Is this still a thing? If it is, I have a question. My friend, it is not a thing. Unfortunately, the whole reason that they're splitting out these 2 games is graphics, animations like we just touched on, and many other system changes that they're implementing, so these games will not have a shared endgame. The initial plan was for them to just be the same game. PoE 2 was just a massive expansion to PoE 1. It was deemed 4.0, the new era of PoE, and that is no longer the case. They're not going to have a shared endgame. They're both going to be mapping an endgame, but the PoE 2 story is going to be different from the PoE 1 story. Now, this isn't a question. It's kind of a question. I just wanted to touch on it too. Yurono Kagi said, how is that absolutely amazing class selection scene going to change with the now 12 classes? I love the concept. I hope you found a way to make it work with double the characters to be hanged. Oh, there's just going to be 2 rows in the gallows. That's it. 1 row, 2 rows. The first row, all the new characters. The second row, all the old characters. That's totally what's going to happen. They're not going to ditch that. That is a legendary scene. The final question and answer directly from GGG is, Dear GGG, how will NPC interactions work in PoE 2? I am really looking forward to the campaign and listen to all the characters and the voice acting. I love that. However, I hate standing still. Allowing at least limited control over my character would go a long way to ease my mind. Currently in PoE 1, listening to an NPC means hands off the keyboard. Any action will cancel the dialogue. It would be very nice to be allowed to move just a little bit. Maybe run in a circle, maybe weapon swap, assign a skill point. If for some reason you are vehemently against me moving even a foot, maybe you could make my mana bubble splash a bit when I click it. I really like the cutscenes in Half-Life, where you can stack some boxes and hop around as the story unfolds. In MTG Arena, you click stuff and get a bunch of little plinks and splashes as you wait for your opponent's turn. These kind of things help so much to improve the quality of a game. Thanks for making games for us. And this question was from NiceDog1613. Jonathan responds and simply says, probably reasonable. And he's right. You know, in PoE 1, they do this right with environmental objects most of the time. In the new league, unfortunately, they don't do it right. But usually in the game, when you click on an environmental object and walk away from it, the dialogue still plays. And that is wonderful. That is one of the big things that Diablo 3 had over Path of Exile 1. They had a lot of journals and story elements communicated that you could listen to while you were playing through the game. Now, a lot of PoE currently is environmental storytelling. You know, you go into a boss fight and you just have to look around and imagine kind of what the story is in your head. There is dialogue from the monsters while they fight, which is also awesome, but the deeper story really needs you to sit down and listen for long amounts of time. You know, the Halls of the Dead was packed with story, but you had to sit in there for hours to listen to all of it. If they could implement something that was usable on the run, that would be a huge win for everyone who enjoys the Path of Exile story, and for a lot of people who would then enjoy it, who could interact with it if they could use it while running or playing the game. Now, there is another thing. It's not directly from GGG, but it is something that I'm going to look at deeper in another video. I thought if you all would want to take a look at it, you can just go to this website here. Somebody has built a PoE2 db.tw and has all of the gem information on it that we've seen so far about Path of Exile, all the actual pictures and the descriptions. It's all here. See, Summon Wolf is right here. We have Lightning Bolt right here. We've got Cast on Shock, a bunch of support gems, 3 unique items, some quest items, what currency items look like in PoE 2, and of course some normal items as well. The references are below, and I really am going to dive into this in another video. I think anybody who's been watching these will probably enjoy it as well. Before we conclude the video, I have one more plug, and it's a sponsor, unfortunately, everybody. But I kid, it's actually all of you sponsoring me. Now, I have a Patreon and I have the YouTube channel member feature unlocked on my channel. We have 10 paid patrons right now, and we have a bunch of channel members. I think we're at 16. I just wanted to plug both and say, if you would like to support the channel and see it continue to grow, see me continue to pump out content going into the new year, please consider supporting for $1 a month or any of the other tiers. On this Patreon, I send out updates, what I'm working on, what exactly I think is going to happen in PoE, what's happening with my channel itself, and a bunch of other stuff. In the new year, I have big plans, and yes, I'm going to deliver on them. This isn't any false promise or anything. I plan on doing a monthly Q&A that I'll also post on YouTube, I believe. I'm going to start streaming once a week on YouTube and Twitch on the same day, so if people would like to chat, we can do that there too. There's a bunch of new stuff in the new year, and I really want to build this channel to the next level since we've hit 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. That's all for today, everyone. What did you think? Did you like the answers that GGG is providing? Are they continuing to just kill it and reveal tons and tons of new information about PoE 2 before we even hit 2024? It's exciting stuff. I can't wait to see more. Anyways, that's all for this video. Tala moana, exiles.